Hey everyone, Paul at ISM. Welcome to part one of our Tamiya 124 Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 6 video build. So it's a bit of a deja vu moment from the McLaren. We're going to deal with preparation of the body, clean it all up, get it prep for primer, priming it, painting it, decaling it, clear coating it. So you've seen all this before, but it's a different car. So sit back, grab a cup of tea, put your feet up, and have a look at this. Hey everyone, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell notifications, get notified of our latest videos, give the video a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and leave a comment. I do read and appreciate every comment you guys and girls leave behind. I may not reply to them all, but they are all appreciated. And there's a link in the description of the video that takes you to a big long list of all handy videos and a lot of the products I use in my videos. You now have the chance to support the video content creation by using Patreon or the PayPal me link in the description down below. All the videos always remain free to watch. This is just your chance to help support the videos. Okay, it feels like deja vu from the MP4 McLaren video, but here we go. Another body to prep, prime, paint, decal and clear coat. So we've got the Evolution part out. We've got all the bumpers, the side skirts, the spoiler, the floor pan chassis and the body itself. We'll also have to paint the wing mirrors and insert the front vent as well. So easy enough, cut all the parts off as we do. So we go around, get the roof vent, front rear bumper, each side skirt, the mirrors, rear spoiler and the chassis all cut off. So using our Tamiya cutters, we'll cut them off and then we'll clean them up with some ultimate sanders and get them all prepped and ready for primer. So one important step I tend to do quite a lot now is go through the instructions and using a highlighter, mark all the parts that need to be painted. So not only is this a good reference to look back on, it's also double checking what needs to be painted. There's nothing worse than doing all your painting and realise you've left out a part. So I find it a good little trick to do, to be honest, a little tip that I might find handy. So we cut off all the sprues. We need to clean up all the nubs that have been attached. So we've got a 400 UMP thinny stick. I'm just going to lightly sand, remove that little point, and then we can hit it with a buffer and get it cleaned up. We'll repeat that for all four corners of both bumpers, and then we can move on to clean up the other parts. So we've got the roof vent, is it? It is the roof vent. So again, two connection points just on that right-hand side. I just need to clean it up, nice and simple. Same on the side skirts, the mirrors. Again, clean them up with a sponge. This time we've got a grey thinny sponge and then hit them with the buffer to clean them up. Once everything's cleaned up, we can then start to attach them. So the front and rear bumpers, this has a different bumper because they do a road car version as well. This shares the same shell. But obviously the WRC car has different bumpers. So they just line up. There's locating points each side. So I find line them up, just hold them lightly, hit them with a Tamiya extra thin glue, hold it for a second, and then we can spin it round and glue the other side like so. Nice and simple and easy. Don't apply a lot of pressure. You'll find you get molten plastic splurge out the panel lines out the side, and it doesn't look good. And once it's set in, hit it again with a little bit more, and make sure you glue the center parts too. Turn it round, just make sure it's all fitted correctly, it all looks right, all the panel lines look good. And I'm just going to give a little bit of glue over the top, just there, to make sure it's fully glued in place. Nice and simple, nice and quick. So that's the front one done. We can spin it round. We'll repeat this for the rear one. So make sure you got it the right way round. Get it in position. You'll find it's held in a few places, like so. Just hold it lightly, and again hit it with the glue. Now whatever you do, make sure your finger on the other side isn't next to that panel line because you can capillary reaction the glue out through the back sometimes. So just stay well away from that and apply your glue just like you did to the front until it's all held in place. Okay, a little bit of extra glue on the back just to make sure we're all fully glued in place, and that's our front and rear bumpers on. Now the side skirts, they just slot over. Look at instructions, make sure you get them the right way around. Again, gently hold them, hit them with the extra thin. This is my extra thin Plasti Weld mix. I'll let the capillary reaction carry it all around the seams, like so. And then we'll do inside too, and repeat that for the other side. And then just run a little line along the outside edge, like so. And just make sure they're in place correct. They're all lined up right. And again, just apply a little dab of glue down the back. Now there's a little vent to pop in place here, so it just sits in from above, like so. And we're going to again use our EMA Tamiya extra thin plastic weld mix. So there's a video on the channel showing how I mix this to glue it in place, like so. And again, we run a little bead underneath. And now the spoiler. Now, the bottom and the sides of the spoiler are red. The top is white. So we're going to assemble the sides. So we just offer them up, glue them as we do the other parts. Spin it around, put the other side on as well. And then we'll let that dry. And then our upper piece, we'll check that it fits after we put this bottom piece in. So there's 5 parts in total for this rear spoiler. So these are all red, so these can all be glued in now. Like so. There we go. Like I say, we let that dry. Then we can come back and try our piece. Now, I've let it dry a little bit. Everything still moves just a bit. So what we're going to do, we're going to offer the piece up and just clamp it together and hold it for a minute or two. And then that will dry and we can get that piece back out then. Now, the roof requires some holes for the vent and some antennas as well. So I drilled from the inside out and then I've widened it from the top down. This is for the roof scoop, the roof vent. So I was going to widen it to make sure it fits. I think it's a 1.5mm drill bit to get this in place. And just a quick test fit to make sure it all fits in and sits flush. And now we need to mount all the parts for primer. So we can drill into the wing mirrors. We can drill from the outside in. That's the piece that goes up against the glass, so we don't see that part. And obviously with the actual mirror in the mirror housing, we don't see inside either. So we can drill a hole straight through there and use a cocktail stick on each one. And that's those nicely mounted, ready for primer. On the spoiler, again, we can drill into the bottom nice and carefully. And again, we can use a cocktail stick / toothpick, whatever you want to call them. And again, just push it in, make sure nothing's moved. And there we go, that's ready for primer. For the roof scoop, we're going to have a dab of CA glue underneath where it won't be seen. And there we go, that's ready for primer too. And then these two little pieces, the little spotlight covers, I completely forgot about. Again, I referred to my instructions and saw the highlighted part, so quite good that I did. And there we go, a couple of dabs of glue. And then there's this little vent that goes into the front bumper as well. I think it's an intake. It's probably, is it the air cleaner? I don't know actually what that is. If you know, let me know. And again, let the capillary action of glue it in place. And there we go. Now, the body. Now, I've been using a pad on and off for a while. A sanding pad, that is. Sadly, I don't think we're ever going to get those made. So it's the same coarseness as our grey sponge sander. So I'm just going to go over the whole body with a worn one of these. Use a warm one. The warm ones are a little less aggressive than a brand new one. And just lightly go all over, scuffing the body up. Get rid of all that plastic shine because we don't want any of that at all. And it gives us a nice key for primer. So go around the whole body, the whole part, just get rid of that shiny plastic and we're good to go. Once you're done, get an old toothbrush, getting all the panel lines, all the gaps, all the recesses, getting these sanding dust out. Like so. And that way we're getting a nice clean body, ready for some primer. As I always say, preparation is key. We've also masking taped it to the stand so it doesn't fall off. And then we've got some Ultimate Airbrush Cleaner on a fresh piece of kitchen paper. And we're going to wipe all over the body and that will degrease any fingerprints, any nasties on there. And that will mean we'll get no reactions off our primer. And we'll get a much better paint finish. So it's just a case going all the way around, wipe every square inch, then get a dry piece, go back, dry it all off, and you'll have no issues at all. There'll be no residue behind, no fingerprints. You've already got rid of glue residue with the sanding, so you'll have a nice, clean body ready for priming. It's a step I do all the time, and I find it's well worth doing, so maybe it's worth trying yourself. Chassis, very difficult to clean the chassis up, so here we are, just a few sprue points to clean up. So 400 customizable sander, just going around cleaning up all the sprue connections until they're all gone. So nice and easy really, I think there's about 4 or 5, they're all nice and easy to do, they're all straight. 400 UMP customizable, thinny stick does a great job on those. So we're in the spray booth, ready for some primer. We got our anti-static brush. We're all mounted. We're going to use Tamiya white surface primer. It's been decanted, thinned about 20% with Tamiya lacquer thinner with retarder. We've got a 0.35 apex, 18 psi, and we're going to put down 3 coats of this. So we'll start off with a lightish coat. I'll sped this footage up. We'll put a light coat down and then come back and put 2 coats on that are subsequently heavier coats. So the last coat needs to be a kind of wet coat to let it fully, level. Don't go too mad, you don't want any runs. So just take your time, build it up nice and slow, and use your proper spray technique, going on and off the air, on and off the model. That way you don't get any spits of paint, and again, we get the smoothest possible finish we can. Of course, you know, let it dry between coats and sand back if you wish, but using a proper spray technique, it tends to be a pretty clean spray. Chassis, again, is primed inside and out, underneath and on top, so you've got to make sure you've got 2 different ways of holding this, so you can see the 2 different sticks, and everything else is mounted as before, using a combination of holes drilled in and super glue. So simple as that. And we're just going around, giving everything a light coat of primer, and like I say, we'll come back, put 2 more heavier coats down until we're happy we've got a nice primer coat down. So like I say, preparation is key. Taking the time, don't rush it, and you'll end up with a much better job. I've been using airbrush for a long time. It's not something you pick up quick. It takes a long time to learn to use. But once you've mastered it, you'll find everything so much easier to do. And it just makes life so much easier. So left overnight, we're going to get some TS26 white down. Now this has been decanted, thin, 20% with Tamiya lacquer thin retarder, through the usual 0.35 apex, 18 psi. And all we need to spray white is the areas that are going to be white on the car. So it's basically a triangle on the back and a triangular shape on the front bonnet. So we don't need to put a lot of paint down. 1 light coat and then 2 heavier coats, and that's job done. Next day again, another 24 hours have gone by, and we're here now, and we're going to mask off for the front Marlboro logos. Now this is tricky to do. It looks like I've done it really easily, but this took several attempts to get this exactly how I wanted. We ended up taking the masking tape on and off, reapplying it. Getting it central is probably the key thing to do. So have a ruler at hand. You can run a piece of tape through the middle, and then you've got to burnish it down over all those raised surfaces, which is probably one of the most troublesome parts of this. And as you can see, take it back on, take it back off, line it up, and we're just eyeing it up to get it into the center of that bonnet at the back. So once we're happy with it, we can burnish it down. But if you need to, you just keep taking the tape on and off. Make sure you detack the tape on your skin, whatever. That way you haven't got too much pull. You're not ruining your paintwork. But like I say, pull it back, burnish it down, and then push it all the way forward. Tricky to do, not the easiest thing to do, to get it perfect anyway. And this one, not bad, not quite as good as McLaren. McLaren masking was absolutely spot on. This one, we get a little bit of bleed through, and we get a little bit of a chip of paint, which we have to repair later. So there's one side done. I'm going to try and match it on the other now. So this looks like it's all in one attempt. This has taken me several goes to do, to try and get it right. Obviously, I don't have all the time in the world to show you, but we're getting there. We're certainly getting there. Again, rulers out. We're just measuring everything to make sure everything's in the middle, everything's in the right position. And once I'm happy, we can infill the rest. So we can infill the rest with masking tape. So again, making sure we get everything in the right place. Very important. I'm just checking, having a look. And yeah, we look to be about spot on. So depends how much of a perfectionist you are. I like to get these things central. Otherwise it can look a bit odd. And when you start applying decals, again, they can be off center. We've got a pointed cotton bud here. We're just burnishing down all those edges into all those little different areas. Because if they're not fully burnished down, you'll get, not bleed through, but you get overspray under the masking tape. So we need to make sure it's fully burnished down. Now, once we're happy, what I've done, I've folded it back, as obviously the triangle at the front is staying white. It's not the top. So I've folded it back on each other. Got my Tamiya decal scissors and some precise snipping. I'm going to just precisely, there we go, look at that, perfect. Trim the top. Once we're happy, we can infill the center and fully infill it all. That's staying white, so you're going to only infill to the front of the bumper, as you can see at top by the grille. And that's it. That stays white. The rest of the car goes red. So we're just making sure it's all burnished down and folded under, and then we can move on to the back. So the back's basically kind of the same as the front. A little bit tricky because you've got all the bumper parts to go over, which are very, very tricky to do. But a bit of time, a bit of perseverance and patience, and it can be done. And it doesn't turn out too bad. Like I say, we do get a bleed through. And because we're using TS paint over the top, we also get a bit of a step as well. Side of the chassis needs painting red, so that's been masked up. We've got some cling film to infill the rest of it. Rather than wasting loads of tape, we can just use the film, and that'll help us infill all the areas quicker. There we go. So we just take it off the roll, fold it over, offer it up, have a check, and then a bit of masking tape over the top, fold it round, job done. And we repeat that for the other end, and that's it. Nice and simple. We can infill the sides, and then just spray in the same red we're going to use on the body. So you're still going to use a lot of masking tape, but using the cling film does save quite a bit. As long as you make sure, I always double it up just in case there's a hole in there. And again, detack your tape and make sure it's all fully burnished down. So spray booth, we've got some Tamiya TS49, which I think is a bright red. I think it's bright red, I forget now. Decanted, 20% Tamiya lacquer thinner retarder, 0.35 apex, 18 psi. And same as before, we're going to put down about 4 coats of this now. I would normally like to prime over pink, but because we've got the white parts on the body, we need to prime over white, unfortunately. So this is what we're going to do. And it does make it a bit more difficult to cover the white. So we're going to add an extra coat of paint and just build it up nice and slow. So I've sped up the painting process here. So this is our first coat going down. And again, we'll repeat this on all the other parts, the spoilers, the roof vents, etc. But for now, I'm just going to show you the body on this part. And then if we skip over, we've got our chassis again. And then all our roof vent, spoiler, mirrors, what have you. We get them all nice, even coats of paint. It's important to paint all these things at the same time so you get the same amount of coats, because sometimes you can get a colour difference. So it's worth taking your time. And again, just take your time. I've sped this up. This is 4 times speed. So yeah, just take your time. The TS paints are very forgiving. They will run if you're not careful. So I go lighter than you think, but they are very, very forgiving paints for sure. So second coat now. Actually, it's probably the third coat, tell a lie, actually. As you can see, the colour's showing through really well now. We're starting to put the paint down a little bit heavier because, again, the TS paints like to go down wet. So we're making sure we get a nice wet coat. Just going around all the parts, same as before. Once they're all painted, they can be moved out of the way. The body's already been done. As you can see, we've got a nice glossy, deep red finish. Like so. Let's have a little look, make sure everywhere's covered properly. And yeah, we're looking good. So unmasking time. Again, I've sped this up, 4 times speed. Masking wasn't bad. We do have a step. We did expect this using the TS paints. But we do lose a little chip of paint. So I'm going to add that in with a micro brush in a little bit. And then we can flat it later once it's dried. So I knew we'd get a bit of a step. I knew that was going to happen. We can flatten that, no problem at all. You won't even see that later on. Once we get off these smaller... See, I just chipped it with the tweezers. I'm an idiot. So you see a little chip of paint I've just popped off. But we get the masking tape off. The demarcation's pretty good. I got the points pretty central. It's nice and clean as well. Other than that stupid chip of paint I took off, it's looking good. Same on the back. We just take all the tape off. We did get a little bleed through on the back from a few places, but we can get rid of that with a thinny UMP buffer. Obviously, because you're putting lacquer over lacquer, we can't use any of the chemicals like we'll do with water-based paint over lacquer. So we'll have to use an abrasive to do this. And I find the buffer, the blue side of the buffer, quite forgiving. If you just take your time, do it nice and slow, you can use your remove overspray. Pretty easy. But overall, for a tricky masking job, which this has been, and the McLaren was, we've done pretty well lately on our masking. It's not turned out too bad. You'll see the paint bleed on the left-hand side of the very bottom of that rear bumper in a second. There it is. Oh, you just saw it quickly. It is there, though. So to deal with that little paint chip, I've got some paint on a cocktail stick, and I'm just trying to build it up slow and thinking, nope, that's not going to work. So we grab a micro brush, we just dip it in, I'm just going to touch and let it pool up, and it'll add a little raised pool of paint. We'll let that dry, go off, and then we'll flat it when we get rid of the raised demarcation marks later on. So make sure you leave that a good 48 hours now to fully dry before you sand. The TS paints do stay a little bit softer, but we can deal with this on the back quickly. So I've got the blue side of UMP thinning buffer, and we're just very gently working away that overspray. And it will take it off. If you're nice and gentle, it'll take off the overspray and it won't bother the rest of the paint at all. So just take your time, work at it slowly, and you'll soon get rid of it. So we've got some 1200 micro mesh, and we're going to get rid of the raised demarcation marks where the two paints meet. Obviously the test paints are quite thick, so when you're laying them down after masking, you will have a step of paint. But if you hit it gently with some 1200 micro mesh wet, you'll get rid of that step, no problem at all, and it will make a demarcation line a little bit crisper as well. So just gently sand. Don't go mad, you don't want to burn through any other areas on the corners of bumpers and that. So make sure you got your micro mesh shaped to get right in there. But just take your time, work your way around, and trust me, it will make that demarcation look a lot neater, because when there's a step there, it does look quite ugly. So there we go, dry it off, have a little look, have a little feel with your finger. And if you need to keep going, just be nice and gentle. As you can see, bottom of the bumper, we got all their overspray off, so that's great. So we did the same for the front. We've sanded all the front, sanded down that paint spot. We've got rid of all the demarcation line, and we're on to decaling. Now, I had an MF Zone aftermarket set of decals for this. Now, painting over red, I never even gave it a thought about the white decals, or I would have barrier coated. So as soon as I put this on, I thought, oh no, it's bled through. But when I think about it and look at it, I'm thinking it hasn't. It's just the red is strong and the decal is thin. So this is the MF Zone decal now going on here. And I'm going to see straight away, it doesn't show as much to eye, but it's gone pink instantly. And that to me would say it's too thin. So I had a little bit of a rethink here. I popped it in place and had a little look, and I was thinking, I'm not happy with that. So I know I had an old set of part-used Shunko decals and some Tamiya. So I thought, you know what? We're going to mix and match decals here, because I want a better finish on the decals than this. So we'll pop that back on its backing paper to save it for now. Like so. And as you see, I've got Tamiya decals on the right and a part-used set of Shunkos on the left. So we can do the full scheme. This is going to be for the Monte Carlo rally now. So whether it's correct on tarmac tires, I don't know. And I'll be honest, I don't really care. This was the best I could make of the situation. So we've got Monte Carlo rally boards now. And we're going to use the rest of the decals as much as we can off the Shunko. And then use the Tamiya ones as and when required. But for the most part, we'll use the Shunko ones, with occasional use of the Marlboro ones off the MF Zone. So I'm not going to show the whole decaling process. You know how it goes. We pop the decal on, we get rid of all the moisture, make sure it's central. Like I say, get rid of all the moisture. Using our cotton buds and that. Make sure everything's lined up properly. And then we hit it with our UMP decal solutions. And today, for the first time, I used heat. I had a heat gun I borrowed off my girlfriend, off Hannah. And it worked out well. I went and bought one, a lower wattage one, watt one. And it worked really well. In conjunction with our decal solutions, it set the decals in place, really nice, really quick. And it did save me quite a bit of time. So I'll pop a link for that in the description of the video. And if you want to have a look, you can get one. They're about $14.99 on Amazon. And they work quite well. So like I say, lots of decals to get down. I'm not going to show them all. I've just gone through and cherry-picked a few. But standard installation application as usual. Put them in the warm water. We've got our heated warmer on our coffee heater there. And then just pop them on. Get them with the decal solutions. If they've got any panel lines need cutting, we cut them just as they're set. And then we can hit them again with the decal solutions and a little bit of heat as well, and get all the panel lines properly in place like so. I like to stab it, as you can see, just like that. So using a combination of normal, strong and extra strong UMP, depending on the decals. The MF Zone separate well with the normal. The Tamiya separate well with the strong. The Shunkos need the extra strong and a bit of heat as well. Like I say, using a combination of the Shunko and the MF Zone Marlboro markings, we will get a full scheme out of this. It's a real shame about those MF Zones. I've used them before, and I did have bleed through on them before as well. So they're just a nice thin decal, but a little bit too thin for strong colours like red. So would barrier coating have made any difference? I don't think it would. I don't think it was bleeding through, as in the paint was bleeding through. I think it was just a colour on the thinner decals. Because you can see on the Shunkos, they stay white. So yes, I think it's just that. I think they're just very thin decals, which is a real shame. But it is what it is at the end of the day. We've got the solution here using 3 different sets, and it's going to look okay at the end. Like I said, I don't know if it's correct, the Monte Carlo having tarmac tyres and wheels. I'm not 100% sure if that's correct, but it is what it is, as I say. So just line everything up, and then we hit them with our decal solutions, dry them all off. Don't let decal solutions sit on the decals pulled up or on the paintwork, or you may find some of the stronger ones can burn and leave marks. If it does that, get a moistened cotton bud and just rub it over, and you should find it comes off. But ideally, don't let the decal solution sit for too long on the paint. And then, because we're doing the number 2 car, we can put the Charisma decals on. I thought we'd do the number 2 car because Mackinnon gets all the glory on these, and normally I would do the Mackinnon car, and I thought we'll do Freddie's car instead. So we can pop our Charisma decals on. Now again, these are MF Zone decals, and you can see them bleeding through just a touch, but it is what it is. Rear spoiler that we painted separately, we're now glued in place. A couple of dabs of CA glue. We can get our Marlboro logo on there, which just about fits, as we can see. And then we're onto the MF Zone Marlboro decals, because these decals are missing out my Shunko sheet. And then we've got the Rally Art decals for the side mirrors as well. Lots more decals that went on, but obviously it's quite a lengthy process. So I've skipped through as we go. They've been drying for a good 6-7 hours now. We've got some Tamiya black panel line wash mixed with a bit of grey to give us a dark grey. I'm just going to hit all the panel lines all over the car and give it a nice wash to give a little bit of depth to all the door shuts, all the gutters. Some of the roof parts will be painted in black, and I find adding a panel line helps with masking, so I always tend to do it. And it's just a case of leaving this to dry for about half an hour, 40 minutes, and then coming in and removing all the excess. You could do black if you want. I find sometimes the black can be a bit stark, a little bit too much. So adding a bit of grey to give it a dark grey can take the edge off it a little bit, and I think it can often look a little bit better personally. But it's a personal choice. Some people don't do this. Some people don't like the panel lines being highlighted. I think it's quite an essential step. Like I say, give it 40 minutes or so to dry. Get a bit of odourless mineral spirits like Winsor & Newton Sansador, cotton bud, bit of clean tissue, and just go around and gently remove all the excess wash. So be careful of the decals. The decals aren't sealed in place yet. They can still be damaged by a bit of rough work with the cotton bud or the tissue. So just really take your time going around and just gently removing it all. Now, a little tip I will give you is when you're finished and you get it all off, put it down for 5 minutes, pick it back up, and I bet you'll spot somewhere that you've missed. I do it all the time, and it's well worth double checking. Like I say, pick it up 5 minutes later, make sure there's none left, and just go around with the cotton bud and remove everything. You may find a little spot you've missed, you may find a smudge you've missed, but I guarantee you, as you hit it with your tack coat of 2K, you'll soon see it when it's too late. So we'll wait it overnight again, another 12 hours or so. We're in the spray booth, we're wetting all our paper. We've got a freshly cleaned out booth, fresh filter, completely emptied, fresh tissue. The whole room's been vacuumed. The spray booth's been on for about 20 minutes by itself. And we're going to 2K today. So if we moisten the paper, any dust that lands there should stay there. We've got our Scott respirator, which is probably the best it could get without going air fed. Not cheap, but well worth the money, in my opinion. Always make sure you've got a respirator, you've got gloves on, or your skin's covered. If you haven't got a full face respirator, make sure you've got some goggles on. Make sure you've got a good spray booth, a bit of ventilation as well. And don't be doing this in the same room as your family or anyone's going to be afterwards, because you want to get out the room when this off gases as well. And we've gone round and we've used our anti-static brush and de-dusted the whole model. So we've got our Gravity Colors 2K Spain. Gravity Colors Spain 2K Clear, my bad. And we're going to mix 6mm of clear to 2mm of hardener and 2mm of thinner. So we use the markings on the cup to add our 6mm of clear. And then we use pipettes, 2 different ones, for the thinner and the hardener. So the hardener goes in first. So 2mm of this. Pop it in. Make sure you get every last drop out of the pipette. You'd be surprised how much will come out. Get a couple more drops. Pop it back on your hardener. Put that out of the way. Then using the same pipette, we're going to mix this and get the chemical reaction started. Like so. Give it a good thorough mix. And then we get our thinner. We throw that pipette away because we don't want to contaminate the thinner with hardener. Brand new pipette. And we're going to add 2mm of thinner to the mix as well. Now I accidentally put it in the wrong cup. It's not the end of the world because we can just pour it straight in and we're going to completely reuse this cup anyway. So 2mm in there, pour it back in. You'll notice the mixture does go very cloudy. Give it a good mix up and you'll notice it goes clear again. Like so. Throw the pipette away again. We're not going to use that again at all. And then we've got our 190 micron paint strainer. And we're going to strain from the mixed cup to the one we put the thinner in. And that way, anything in there that shouldn't be in there will be caught. And yeah, we'll get rid of it. Now, what I like to do is put the cup that we just emptied out of in the corner. Pop the filter in. Make sure it stands up on itself. Because you'll find you get a few drips go in there and you'll get quite a bit of 2K in there should you need some more. So we've got a plastic cover in place in the spray booth. And we're going to apply a tack coat first on all this. So just a light tack coat all the way around. We've got a 0.35 apex. This is my 2K airbrush. This is all I use this for. We're at 18 psi. And we're just going to put down a thinnish tack coat over the entire body. Now the whole idea behind this is that it's not a shock to the decals. Not that there's much thinner in the 2K. But more so we get a nice sticky, tacky surface for the wet coats to go on. And that does limit the runs then. And you get a lot less runs in the paint. So just go around and systematically all the way around. Cover everywhere with a nice thin coat of 2K. There we go. As usual, I leave the whole process of 2K in. I don't skip, just so you can see how long it takes, how much I put down, and just be thorough. Go around everywhere. Make sure you get everywhere nicely evenly covered. Get all the wheel arches done there. Then we do our bonnet, roof, and boot. Like so. We'll also do all the other parts as well. They're all in the box as well. All the spoiler, wing mirrors, so on and so forth. What I will say about the smaller part is very, very easily to overspray them. So be very, very careful and really take your time. So we've got a nice tack coat down there. That's looking good. It's pretty even. Looks a lot wetter than it is. The camera does exaggerate it. We're going to pop that carefully under our plastic container. And there's all the other parts to paint now as well. So this is the second coat of these. This is 10 minutes later. They've already had a coat that were put away, and because they were put away last, I paint them first, just the way I work. So they've already had their tack coat. 10 minutes has gone by. I'm just going to put down a semi-wet coat. We're not trying to go full wet coat on this. We're just putting enough paint down, enough clear coat down to give us a semi-gloss finish. And then that can go back under and be left for another 10 minutes. Like so. Be very careful here of parts touching. This is an absolute nightmare. You need to be careful you don't catch that body on anything. None of the parts touch. Because this stuff is unbelievably sticky at this stage. So our tack coat from before. This is our first wet coat. So we've come a little bit further away from the model with the airbrush. We're going a little bit slower. And we're just applying a little bit more clear coat. We're not trying to get a full wet coat at this minute. We're just trying to get another coat down. We'll let it go tacky for another 10 minutes. And then we come back and apply our full wet coat at the end. Now, you don't have to do just 3 coats. If you need 4 or 5 coats, so be it. I've found lately going a little bit thinner and adding more coat is working a lot better than trying to get just 3 coats down, because I often find myself rushing it and putting too much 2K down. It looks really thick and horrible. If you just take your time and build it up nice and slowly, it will look a lot better in the end. So I'm just having a look, make sure we've got everywhere evenly covered, getting all the bottom of the rails of the side skirts and the wheel arches and the bumpers. Just have a little look, make sure we're all evenly covered. And there we go. Quick look, use your light. If you angle it, you can see perfectly where you've sprayed. Like I say, we're not got a complete gloss coat. You still see orange peel there, and that's just what we want. Third and final coat now, but we are going to apply it a little bit thinner. We're not going to try and rush and get one quick coat on there. So we're going to put enough down to give us a near glass-like finish, and then we'll come back at the end and just have a look with our eyes. Have a little look, make sure it's all fully done. The spoiler, the wing mirrors and that are all done now. I did those first before we did this. But just thought we'd concentrate on the body, concentrate on one thing. Like I say, I'm not trying to get the full wet coat now. I'm just trying to get most of it down. We'll let it settle for another couple of minutes as we're waiting while we go round. Then we come back and make sure we've got a full glass finish at the end. So as you see, we're getting there slowly. Still got a bit of orange peel here and there. As usual, we do get a little bit of dust, which is inevitable with 2K. It is one of the real downsides of using it, but it is what it is. It's just one of those things. Nothing beats 2K, personally, as a clear coat. So it's just one of those. Now, I'm having a look around, and I can see we've got a pretty decent clear, but it's not quite glass-like just yet. So just having a little look, thinking where needs more, what doesn't. Iron it up, make sure we're all equal. And then we just lightly add more where required. So, like I say, although I just recommend 3 coats, I guess it doesn't really need to be 3 coats. This is the 4th coat going on now, really. I'm just building this up nice and slow. Okay, so we just want to get to the point. What you're left with here is what you will get as the finish as it dries. So, the better finish you get here, the easier it is to polish it up later. That's the way I look at it. So as you can see, the roof's good. Probably just do with a little bit more 2K so we can self-level a little bit better. But it's certainly getting there. Just have a little look where it needs more, where it doesn't. Again, angle it towards your light. Use the light as an aid because it does help see the gloss. I can see there it's not quite perfect, but it'll probably self-level itself. So if you're at the stage and think it needs a little bit more, so be it. If not, leave it be. I'm happy with that now. I will let that self-level for 5 minutes, take it out of the spray booth, have a quick look. If it looks fine, I'll put it back, let that dry in the modelling cave for a good 3 hours. I will vacate the room and then come back and check it later on and see what it looks like. So we left it probably 5-10 minutes later. Take it out, have another quick look. Now this will self-level a little bit. It looks really good to me. Not the best, but certainly not the worst one I've done. It will self-level a little bit more, and once we flat it all and polish it, it will look a lot better. Right then, so there we go. Trademark saying of mine. That turned out quite well. Shame about the mix match of decals. It is a real shame, but too thin on that board. Too thin. And I think once we'd have 2K'd it, it would have really bled through and ruined it. So I'm glad I changed it. It's a bit of a mismatch. Like I said, don't know if it's going to be accurate having the tarmac stage wheels and tyres on it for the Monte Carlo rally. I'd have thought it would be because I'm pretty sure it's all road, isn't it? So yeah, it is what it is. It's turned out pretty well. I'm happy with that. The 2K job's not too bad. We've got a bit of dust to deal with. It's a little bit thick in places, but it's not the worst I've done, so I'm happy enough with that. So we'll be back with part 2 with this. I'm not quite sure when, because I want to really crack on with the McLaren MP45 that we have the second part due out pretty soon, hopefully. I've got a deadline with that one, so I kind of want to get ahead on that one a little bit. So you should see that out pretty soon. So there we go. If you built this kit or anything about the kit you know, let me know in the comments down below. I've got a bench update to do tomorrow, and I'll have an end of year review to do just after Christmas. So if you're around, come watch those and say hello. Don't forget, we're live tomorrow night. Luke Carswell's live in the afternoon at 2:30. We're live tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Come and join us for an hour or two. It's an impromptu show. It's not very structured. It's just very informal. We do have a giveaway to do, so come and join us. And we're back on Saturday morning on Christmas Day for an hour or two, and on Sunday morning as well. And on Saturday night, make sure you go to Scaly Models channel and go and support them on Boxing Night at 8 p.m. Go over there and support them. As always, like to support the channel. There's a Patreon me link, a PayPal me link, and a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description of the video, as well as all the links to everything associated with the channel. My other ISM channel, my daily live shows are aired. The ISM Facebook page and forum, umpretail.com, Live at the Bench page, Off Air Hangout group, my own personal modelling page, and the the ISM group build page as well. You can go over there, join all them. Make sure you give it a thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, click that bell notification, and please leave a comment. I do appreciate all your comments you leave behind, and thank you very much for watching the video. I will catch you all next time. So enjoy the rest of the evening, everyone. Take care. Bye-bye.